Today I had the pleasure of sitting down with Kit Higginson. Kit is a teacher of philosophy, mythology and English as a second language. He set up the Southampton Philosophy Forum and has just provided a wonderful conversation today where we've got into the weeds a little bit in the sort of philosophical perspectives of what it means to live in a world with AI and robotics. Really appreciate his time and the conversation we had. It was really good fun. I enjoyed it, so I hope you do too. Thank you for coming in today.
My pleasure.
We had a bit of a moment deciding whether to call you Chris or Kit.
We did.
Which you're professionally known as Chris.
I am at work. I work, and like a good segment of my life, people knew me as Chris. And a few years ago, I've kind of slowly moved back to my childhood nickname of Kit.
Okay. Do you remember where did the Kit nickname come from? Is that?
I know. I was traveling around America and hanging out with a group of Americans, and I fell in with this group, and I was like, "Oh, we already have a Chris. Do you have another name you can go by?" And I was like, "Oh, well, I have my old childhood nickname was Kit." So this whole group started to know me Kit, and I just really liked it. It just seemed, I don't know, kind of gentler, and I don't know. It felt quite nice. I quite liked it, and so now everyone in Southampton knows me as Kit, and occasionally I speak to people who know me from before, and they call me Chris, and it seems very kind of professional. I'm just like, why are you calling me that? That's like my professional name. But yeah.
Okay. All right. Well, Kit it is. You've been running a Southampton Philosophy Forum for a little while now, which seems, from what I can gather and from the conversation with you and some of the people that have been going to it, that it's building some momentum and enthusiasm. How did you get to start that, and how's it been going?
When I lived in Vietnam, we did something pretty similar. There was kind of like the expat in the Vietnamese kind of expat scene. We had a Hanoi Philosophy Forum there, and I took that idea, and I was living in Southampton, and I was just like, I'm sure there are loads of really cool, interesting people in Southampton, but I felt like I was struggling to meet them. And I was just like, well, I teach philosophy in Winchester, and I was like, well, I could take some of the more interesting, sexier topics from that I teach in Winchester and then do them in Southampton in the same way that I used to do them in Hanoi and Vietnam. And so we've started doing that, and it's growing by word of mouth. I'm not really on social media. I don't like that stuff. I do the minimal amount there, but I haven't done any advertising, and it's growing, and we're outgrowing our space. And yeah, it's been going well. We've been doing topics like we've done AI, and we've done modern masculinity, and we've done assisted dying and drug regulation, and all these kind of like interesting, chewy topics for people to get into.
Is there a size of group that works with that?
Less about the size of group and more about the discussion. If everyone's on the same page, then it's just not that interesting. We did drug regulation, and it was cool, but everyone was kind of like, "Oh yeah, no, we should treat this as a medical thing. We shouldn't criminalize it." And so it was just like, "Yeah, okay." But then when you've got some people who are disagreeing and kind of getting at it, then it becomes really interesting.
Are you saying that we're attracted to things that are divisive?
I guess, yeah. It becomes interesting, right?
Myself.
I mean, look at social media. That is like, we're attracted. Yeah, no, we're attracted to the division. We're attracted to the conversation. When everyone agrees the same thing, it's not an interesting place to be. It's boring. I mean, it can go to extremes, right? You can go too far. But yeah, for sure, we're totally attracted to like some division.
Yeah. At our peril.
Yeah, no, absolutely. but as with everything, and I'm sure we'll get into this a lot today, but like often a little bit of a thing is great. It's when we do the thing too much that we destroy ourselves.
Everything in moderation.
Everything in moderation, including sometimes moderation.
Oh, hang on. Okay, yeah. No, that makes yeah. So you when we talked pre this meeting today, you've talked about, you use the word dubious a couple of times, or there's a caution to when we're talking about AI and where it might go. And I suppose, should we talk first, like what at the moment you're setting up an AI course?
Yeah, so at the school that I teach at, I'm gonna run a course of, I guess at the moment, an unknown length, because I haven't really made the course yet. But I'm going to create a course about AI and what I think the future is, and I'm going to try and keep it quite open for people to have their own opinions. Yeah.
Am I talking like from a philosophical perspective?
Yeah. I'm not going to be getting into kind of like the practicalities of like setting up your own AI business or like how to program with AI. It's going to be like the social effects of AI, the philosophy behind AI, what we want from AI, the future of AI. From like looking at AI from a very human point of view.
Yeah, okay. Which I think is the conversation that most people are having right now, because most people don't really understand the mechanics of what's going on, and a lot of people aren't necessarily looking to leverage it for their own advantages or businesses. But we have this just rise of conversation and sense of it being a thing, and just it's quite an emotive subject straight away, and probably. Well, maybe understanding the mechanics and the how it works.
Yeah, I can't really speak to that. I'm not a computer programmer. So I can't speak to the mechanics. Well, I know the basics about how it's made, but the details, it's not my thing. But I mean, that's the reason you're making this podcast, right? It's because this is the zeitgeist. This is the spirit of just like, oh my God, this thing is really big and really interesting. What's going to happen? Which is presumably why you want to make this podcast.
Yeah, I haven't got. I'd like to say I've got some idea as to what's going on, and I fill my time reading and talking about this. I think my friends and family are sick to the back. No, but it's fascinating. It's fascinating, and I mean, we're maybe getting ahead of ourselves now, but just I texted you this morning about transhumanism, this recent word that I've just Googled this morning. Like, oh my God. And this idea of like, where are we going? Where does this take us? And it feels like we're at the beginning of a ramp of something.
Yeah.
So then going back to you so this word dubious or the caution that you've got, where does your caution come from?
I think it comes from a few different places. Okay, you okay for me to get into some like philosophy?
Yeah,
that's why I'm here. Okay, that's why I brought you. Okay, cool.
And I think, is it not the conversations I have around AI at the moment are philosophical with
sure.
And so you obviously have an education and a history of using philosophy to analyze situations. So I think I'm excited to hear your views.
I mean, I think I can. I've been thinking about this since you asked me to be on here, and I think I can kind of articulate a few different ideas. So you can always tell how self-indulgent someone is by how far they insist on going back to explain something. And I'm going to insist on going back to explain something to like the 17th century. But there was this idea that came through the philosophers of like Descartes and then Hume and Kant, which is the idea of like what they call modernism. And we also know as in the Enlightenment. So the idea that we can use reason and logic and technology to improve life on Earth, right? That we can move away from having everything centered around a God and doing things because the church and your priest says. You can kind of put all that, we don't have to get rid of that, but we can push it to one side and use our reason to get to the correct answers. And this is where science comes from. This is where a tradition of science, like doing things without God, like using our logic to do things ourselves and improving the lot of humanity ourselves, right? And this builds steam and like, okay, we can also add technology to this. Like technology is a good thing. Technology brings us out of the dark ages and brings us to a point of like kind of light and knowledge and progress and look how far we've come. And like I always associate this philosophy with like a kind of 19th century Victorian businessman with a mustache and a top hat who kind of points at the telegram and the train and the steamship, which he takes to and from North America, and kind of said, look at this progress. Look at, like, this is what modernism has given us. This is what rationality, this is what the Enlightenment has given us. So there's this deep vein of kind of Western European worldview, which is more technology good, you know? my dad was born in a house without an indoor bathroom. My grandmother was born in a house where she only had a single cold tap, right, in the kitchen. And that's where you got all the water from, right? And within my dad's lifetime, he's gone from having no indoor plumbing, no indoor heating, like, you know, they had a single a single burner in the house that heated the house. You know, back in my day, there was ice on the inside of the windows, this kind of stuff. And now, my dad lives in a world where you can have a thing on your phone that you have an app that you can turn on the heater so your house is snug and warm before you get home, right? That's the progress within my dad's lifetime. And my dad is not a particularly old man, right? And even more in my grandmother's lifetime. So this is great. So this is the view of the Enlightenment thinkers and the modernist thinkers through Kant, and that we can progress and move forward and move forward and move forward. And like technology good, technology better, technology like improves life, and just look at where it's come from. Look where we've come from, right? Look where we're going. Can you imagine where we're going, right? And so for this worldview, AI, large language models, it's incredibly powerful technology. Oh my God, imagine where it will take us. Can you imagine, right? Incredible, right? But then there's a second worldview which emerged after the Second World War, with this group of thinkers who'd survived, Europe and the Nazis, and they said, whoa. Auschwitz was only possible because of technology. Right? They wrote a book called The Dialect of Enlightenment in 1949, and they said, you can't have Auschwitz 100 years before, because Auschwitz needs the technology that came along in the 19th century. It needs the steam trains. It needs the spreadsheets. It needs IBM's early computers. It needs the chemistry to create Zyklon B, so it could gas the people in the gas chambers. So in this style of philosophy, this worldview, technology doesn't save us from danger. Technology is the danger. This kind of rationalistic hyper-technology worldview is what allowed Auschwitz to happen. And they're not wrong. You could not have had Auschwitz 100 years before. Not practical. But so they point to Auschwitz and they say, this isn't an aberration. This isn't like a bizarre fluke of this kind of modernistic Enlightenment thinking. This is the result of modernistic Enlightenment thinking. That if we have more technology, more rationality, then we will rationally get rid of the weak members of our society, you know. And the Nazis also got rid of gay people and trade unionists and disabled people and, you know, people with learning difficulties, because they were the weak people. So the rationalist mindset gets rid of these and uses technology. So, and these people who come from this vein of like, you know, the guy called Adorno and Horkheimer, again, wrote this book called Dialect of Enlightenment. And they say, the more technology is bad. So the large language model in this philosophy, this worldview, is incredibly dangerous, because if the steam train and chemistry give us Auschwitz, what will the large language model give us? So there are these two different ways of seeing technology and the advance of technology. And I don't know, I see the rationality of both. And so like, I think it's great that children aren't dying of diarrhea at 6 months old because, you know, we have medicines. I think that's fantastic. But also, you have to acknowledge that like technology is dangerous. So I feel pulled between the two worldviews.
But is it a perspective thing about looking forward to the future and seeing what the future of technology looks like?
Yeah.
And then the other perspective, which is the retrospective view on what we've achieved.
Yeah.
And when we look back, we can say, wow, that was amazing. We've achieved amazing. But looking forward, when trains were going to go over 30 miles an hour for the first time, people were afraid that our bodies would explode.
Yeah.
Right?
Yeah, exactly.
Because they were like, shit, like our bodies can't deal with this.
Can't deal with this. This is too much.
It's going to be too much. And then it was like,
actually, it's fine.
Of course, it's fine.
It's fine.
Of course, we can't handle going over the speed of light, right?
Probably. But we don't know, right?
I'm
or the speed of sound or whatever. But you know, you're right. There is this great fear of technology. What is it going to do to us? Absolutely.
Yeah. And like when the printing press came out, there was this idea that we would our memories and our brains would atrophy.
Yeah. Socrates speaks for a long time. So back in kind of 300 BC, so one of the first things we have on record from Socrates is like him complaining about the written word. Like, you idiots, don't write stuff down. You have to remember it. And this is 300 BC. And he's just like, we're not going to be able to remember stuff as well as we used to be able to. So people have been complaining about technology as soon as like we were writing things down. So like the first technologies. People were probably when people were chipping flint, there were probably other people saying, "Oh, technology, flint, you have to use your hands to kill a mammoth. What is this sharp flint nonsense?" So yeah, no, we should totally be dubious about people who are we should be dubious about people who are dubious of technology, I guess. But simultaneously, we were talking before about, the problems of social media, and like, I think it's also foolish to grab hold of every new technology and hold it to your bosom and go, oh, it's new technology, it must be good.
Oh God, yeah, no, absolutely, and like, but when we were developing the atomic bomb, like there were lots of concerns then, rightfully so, as to what was going on. Not least that we didn't know if we were going to set fire to the atmosphere and burn the whole world away.
Yeah.
We just,
I hope it doesn't happen.
Fingers crossed, guys. Here we go.
But then we did have Hiroshima and Nagasaki, right? Two of the greatest killings of humans in history.
Sure. We've also created an almost abundant power with very little waste, which is now very controversial for a whole host of sort of...
Becoming fashionable again, though. It's coming back into fashion.
I hope so. I hope so. So, and it is. But then each country's got their own spin on that, it seems.
But I mean, that's a good example of technology, right? Nuclear. Because on the one hand, we have the nuclear bombs and the capacity to completely destroy basically all of humanity on the one hand. On the other hand, we have the ability to give almost limitless power constantly. And so what a good example of the pitfalls and the opportunity of technology.
You ever see the film The Book of Eli?
Yes. So, with the guy whose name I can't remember. Yeah, but anyway, yeah. Post-apocalyptic world where he's searching a kind of like post. Yeah.
He's looking. It's post-apocalypse. Everything I think they're like maybe a couple of generations into the post-apocalypse. So the memory of the previous world has kind of faded, but there's like still legendary stories and legendary stories about books. And so I think, as I understand it from my memory, that there aren't books of the old day around, but there is one book, and that's what the whole film's about. And I'm going to absolutely give away the punchline. So, but the idea is that he's on this mission to find this book, because if he can get that book to the power of good, that power of good, it will empower them to if they can get it to the good camp, they will be empowered to solve the world and to take us to enlightenment and to the utopia and guide us to light. But at the same time, the film is battling that the bad guys are trying to get this book because they want to use it to leverage power and corruption and control. And the book is a Bible, or a religious text of some kind. And this idea that religion in this example is used as a tool by the powers of good or bad, and it has the potential. Nuclear energy has the potential to be really good in the right hands, or it has the potential to be really deadly in the wrong hands.
Yeah,
and AI and many technologies can go that way. So the actual technology itself isn't necessarily, I guess is the case I'm making here. Is AI the problem, or is it the people who are controlling the AI that's the problem?
Yeah, sure. I think that's a reasonable point. I mean, it's easy to point to any downsides of any technology. You can imagine the first person who was like kindling the fire and someone burning themselves, and then we go, oh no, guys, the fire is clearly dangerous. He's just, Og has just burned his hand. Clearly, we shouldn't be messing with this fire stuff. It's clearly dangerous.
Og, what were you doing?
Right? Obviously, it was worth, Og burning his hand to get, all the other technologies that came down the line. I think that's totally fair. Are some technologies like have more danger built into them than others and are kind of like innately dangerous? Maybe. I struggle to think of anything that's like, I guess you could kind of point to some kind of chemical warfare, stuff like that, that's just like innately bad and doesn't really have any upsides. But they're few and far between, I think. I think you have to go to quite an extreme to go to something that's just bad, that doesn't have any upsides. But for the most part,
I've not put my mind to that one before.
For the most part, I would think that everything has got its. Even you and me don't like social media, but I would also have to acknowledge there are some upsides to social media, right? I mean, I don't want really anything to do it, but if you're trying to promote your small business or whatever, it's probably really good. You would know this is a small business owner, Tim.
Yeah, and I really enjoyed using social media for about 15 years ago, 12 years ago, when I was some earlier businesses. I really enjoyed using it, and very quick. It was never a conscious decision, but I just felt pushed away from it. I didn't like the way it made me feel.
Yeah.
And I never consciously said I'm not going to log in. I just one day realised that my phone had automatically offloaded that app, and I was like, oh, good.
Okay. Yeah. So what is it about AI though that you're finding so enchanting? Like, is it that you feel that there's a great promise there that you want to be in on? Is it that you are? What is it? What is the interest? Like, can you express where it's coming from? Why is it not just like some other invention?
I have generally, alongside being a dirtbag climber, I have at the same time always quite enjoyed technology. And my sister will attest to that. When I took her Walkman apart at one point and couldn't put it back together again. And I've always been curious to see what's inside things and understand how it works. And it's not just AI on its own that fascinates me. It's AI and robotics.
Okay.
And I think the robotics is quite a big train that we've not quite seen coming into the station yet.
In what sense do you mean robotics? Because we have lots of robots, but they're mostly in factories.
Well, robots have been relatively dumb for a long time. So our ability to engineer and design robots is incredible. We are, and that's unfair to say that they're dumb, but we have algorithms and programs that can control robots to do specific things that we program and tell it to do.
Yeah.
And now that robot arm that has this very measured thing that it must repeat again and again and again in a factory, we can stick a camera on it and just say, look, every time a bag comes down the line, pick it up and stick it on the shelf for us. And it's now we can give it some intelligence, if you like. And so we're now able to supercharge robotics with the use of AI. And for me, that is going to be very it will help advance the current technology that we already have in robotics, but humanoid robots. And the work we're seeing from Tesla at the moment with the Optimist robot, which at some point will become ubiquitous with modern life.
You think?
I really think. I think that the trajectory, I can still man the case. I don't think I am still manning. I think I can just lay out the trajectory that I think we're going in to get there. I find it really hard to still man a case where we don't end up with humanoid robots integrated in our societies. I
mean, Japan's been trying to do that for a long time. and hasn't really succeeded. A little, not much, but maybe the technology wasn't there yet.
The two things that Tesla are working on with their Optimus robot are, and that they would say is going to separate their robot, or are essential for the sort of final hurdles that we need to get over, are the dexterity of a hand to make the hand as good or better than a human hand. They believe that that's something they're going to achieve. They're releasing their first Optimus 3 next year, and then they're going to have a new version of it coming out every single year, like we have a new iPhone coming out every year.
Sure.
They've shut down production of several Tesla car models so that they can use their production sites to produce these Optimus robots. They're gonna hit us like a wave. The second thing is the intelligence, and I think so. What they've said is that about 50% of the cost price of the production of an Optimus robot will be going into the chips, the AI chips that are inside it.
And do you think people want a robot in their house? Okay, well, maybe. Do you think that the average person who wants a robot in their house? Because I don't know what your kind of social media, YouTube or whatever feed is, but the younger generation to me really are very anti-AI from what I can see. That's not the same as robots, but I saw a poll a couple of days ago, which was people under 25 in the US have an 18% approval rating of AI, 18. So do you think there's going to be that similar interest in robots? Because I can't really.
I remember standing on Epping High Street in the year 2000, maybe, talking on a mobile phone, and I felt really uncomfortable doing it. I felt like a ponce, and I didn't want to be doing it, but I needed to speak to.
Look at me with my big mobile phone.
And I just felt really self-conscious with it, and I was like, oh God. And now. We still have these little hurdles. The first time earbuds came out and people were walking around without the earphones, and it was literally just the removal of the cable, but people felt poncy doing it for a brief moment, and now it's ubiquitous. It just become we overcome these kind of this sense of intrusion of technology in our lives pretty quickly.
Sure. But what thing, we have to have a reason to, right? We people like the mobile phone because it's super convenient. People like the earbuds because they're convenient. But what is it that the robot would do for you or me that would give me a reason to get over my
everything?
Such as?
So in a work environment, so businesses, do they want to be cleaning their offices at night? A million and one jobs in warehouses. The world is built for humans, so putting humanoid robots in to replace humans seems like an obvious progression. But in your home, do I want to be doing the gardening? Do I want to cook my dinner? Do I want to clean the toilet? Do I want to do all the hoovering? Do I want to do all the things that? And it's not to say that not to say that I want a robot to come in the house and do all those things, but if it's available, the step to that happening. So going back to the question, I'm getting a bit ahead of myself because I don't want to overexpose myself.
Okay,
emotions on it, but I think what inspires me about it is just I love the change. I love the development. And when I'm impatient when someone says, "Oh, the next the folding iPhone is going to come out." I'm actually really fascinated by how that's going to work and using it and seeing.
You're an early adopter, right?
And I actually quite like change, and I think this change. I was thinking about this, that change is something as a society we've passed down through generations. So a what's the person who used to make horseshoes?
Blacksmith.
Blacksmith. That's the one. So a blacksmith might make shoes for horse, and then they pass it down to their son, and their son iterates on it, and we've got this kind of generational iteration and development. And now we're like so far away from that like we're literally iterating from 1 week to the next. We just can't keep up with the change. And that I think is tough culturally to accept. But I don't know why I get attracted to it. I love that ramping.
Yeah, and I think quite a lot of people are like you as well. I think that's not an unusual point of view. But not everyone is in that boat. But I think it's also not unusual. I think there'll always be people like you who are like, yes, sign me up for the robots because I think it could be great. It doesn't mean that everyone is, but
I'm not necessarily convinced it will be great.
But there are always
inevitable,
people,
it seems.
Yeah. But there will always be people who are excited about these things and will kind of like take them on and then kind of see like and then see how they go. Whereas someone like me, I'm much more dubious. I'm the opposite end of the adopter scale. I'm like only when I have to do I take it up. Like I don't know. Something I've been thinking about a lot is you said like, oh, do I want to do the cooking? Do I want to do the gardening? And like, yeah, maybe not. Not everyone enjoys that, but like I think it's also there's something profoundly good about using your hands and making a thing. Like there's there's also the people who make AI music, Suno. I don't know if you've heard about this. It's basically it's ChatGPT but for music.
Yeah, I've heard of.
Yeah, so you put in a description, give me a reggae song about walking in Southampton Park, and it comes back with like a 3-minute like pretty decent reggae song with about chorus, bridge, verse about.
I mean, it's blown my mind a bit.
Yeah, it's technically very impressive, but for me, as someone who's been playing a musical instrument for more than 35 years at this point, it entirely misses the point about making music and being involved in the dialogue. Like for me, it's not even music because to make music, to learn how to play an instrument is hard work and should be hard work, and it is the thing that you strive and achieve. And for me, a lot of the dialogue about AI and robots and like, oh, come in and cook your dinner. Like, yeah, but like that means you don't know how to cook dinner. For me, like all this kind of stuff reminds me of like, I did an Ironman years ago, right? And it was incredibly hard and it hurt a lot. Like physically, it was incredibly painful. And like if you strapped me into the seat now and put the sensations through my body of doing that Ironman, I would be being tortured. Like that is physical torture. But I wanted to do it, and I'm glad I did it because suffering and work is important. And all these Suno and Tesla and ChatGPT, they want to take away from us any kind of difficulty and just like give us the thing at the end without having to strive to achieve it. But striving to achieve things is what it means to be a person. Like, why did I run and cycle from one side of Scotland literally to the other side of Scotland? Because it was hard. But you can just imagine like the guy from Suno or the Elon Musk being just like, you idiot, you could just drive and it would take 2 hours. Like, why are you running and cycling this? Well, because it's hard. Like, it is important to suffer. If you're given, like, what's the point of doing a marathon when someone just picks you up in a car and drives you to the end? That's a waste of time. To suffer, to learn is important. And I wrote down a quote from the guy who's the head of Suno because I hate this quote so much that I wanted to get the quote right.
Go on.
Okay, so it's the head of Suno. So this is a guy who is creating something essentially to get over, to mean that people don't need to learn an instrument, don't need to learn how to make music. And this quote is, this is a guy called Mikey Schulman, the head of Suno. Quote, "It's not really enjoyable to make music now. It takes a lot of time. It takes a lot of practice. You need to get really good at an instrument or a piece of production software. I think the majority of people don't enjoy the majority of time they spend making music." I hate that so much. And it so misses the point of what it is to make music, to learn a skill, to learn an instrument. Like, to cook dinner, one of my favorite things in the world is to get people over to my house and cook dinner and present food to my friends. Like, it's wonderful. One of my favorite things in the world is to learn a song on my instrument and then to stand with my friends and play the music, right? But to technology, Musk, Suno, they want us not to do that. And we will do it because human beings are lazy. It's terrible. Like, what is the point of any of it if you can just, like, there's no point in just being driven to the end of the marathon. You want to, like, it's good to suffer and do it for yourself. Why do you climb a wall, Tim, when you could just get a ladder?
Or why bother using a ladder? Just walk around.
Yeah, exactly.
So
because
just
it's the
don't bother
suffering.
leaving the house.
The suffering is what's important. The suffering is what you enjoy. You want to work, you want to fail, and then you want to achieve it.
Yeah, and I strongly agree that life is invariably, the best bits come from pushing back against the things that we don't want to do.
Sure.
It's putting ourselves into discomfort in a sense, social discomfort. Like I don't really want to go into a social environment because it makes me nervous, but I do it and I get satisfaction from having pushed myself into it. I don't really want to go to the gym because it's bullshit.
It's hard work. It hurts, man. If you go hard, like you physically hurt afterwards.
And I get in a cold shower most days, and every single time I don't want to do it. But like you just, and so I think, I fully agree that, I've done some running over the years and there's these kind of endurance or tough things, whether it's momentary because it's with a cold shower, if it's several hours over a race or whatever it is, like we do seek out challenges.
Yeah.
And so I fully agree. At the same time, I'm gonna just play devil's advocate a little bit, which is that, last night we had a barbecue and it was lovely, but I didn't kill the animal. Mm-hmm. I didn't mix up the tomato sauce. I didn't make the cold sore. I didn't kiln dry the plates. I didn't carve the table. I didn't build the house. I don't really understand how the barbecue gas system works, because it is gas, it's not coal. Like there's so many things where I have just to say that I cooked food for my family, like sure, but most of it I didn't actually do.
No, that's fair.
I just warmed it up at the end. And so I still had the friends over. I still had, like, it was a joy. And I like, so are we not just, so for someone, forget that it's a robot, if to have a chef, to have, to have someone who can facilitate, do some prep work for you early in the day. So you come home and it's ready for you to cook up yourself. Irrespective of whether it's a human or a robot, us getting other people, us getting assistance from the services and technologies around us is a natural progression.
That's a really good point. Yeah, so you mean it would be more meaningful if you'd raise the chickens or the pig yourself, but obviously there's only so much time in the day. So it's totally reasonable to say, like, you I guess these things it's worth having help from technology, from another person, if you're using that time that you save in order to do something that's more worthwhile, right? So, like, as I say, you could have, like, thrown the pottery and, like, do you bake pottery? Do you, whatever?
Literally, we haven't got a clue.
We don't know.
That's
we don't know, right?
Point, isn't it?
That's the point. But yeah.
It's not even atrophied. We just never knew.
We do something with a kiln and heat. Yeah. But yeah, we don't know, and that's fine because we are using that time hopefully to do other stuff, as you say. So with your barbecue last night, so you do make a really fair point. So I guess this technology is worthwhile if we are using that time that we save in order to do something else that's more meaningful and productive than we would have otherwise done. Right?
We can go running more.
Yeah, sure.
Do another Ironman. Go to the gym, or we can.
Yeah.
Or push ourselves into social environments.
Anything.
Like,
as long as it's more worthwhile than the thing that you could otherwise have been doing, then you've kind of won, right? But if you are then using the time that you've saved in order to sit on your ass and watch Netflix and scroll on Instagram, then I would say you'd be better off kind of putting the time into like making the dinner yourself. And also there's also the fact that skills atrophy, which is a little bit alarming. Again, to pick on your idea of like cooking dinner, like if you keep on doing that, then you lose the ability to cook for yourself, which I think is a terrible thing.
Why?
Oh, great question. Because I think that being able to cook for yourself and your loved ones is a wonderful thing, and I think that almost anyone would enjoy that ability if they had it.
Is it the cooking itself, or is it the providing?
For me, you can't separate the two. For me, like if I go out and buy a load of food and bring it to my friends, like I've just bought 10 pizzas, guys, and give them to my friends. That's not as I would get nowhere near the same kind of feeling as if like I go out, buy ingredients, prep the ingredients, cook the ingredients, provide the food. So I think you're right in that like it's useful as long as we are kind of making better use of our time than we're saving. But there is the concern about losing the skills. It's just Google Maps, right? I mean, you're similar age to me. When we were lads, you had to know your way around the town, right? Because you couldn't have Google Maps, so I would have a literal map and I would figure it out. I moved to Southampton 4 years ago, or however long it was, and I don't really know my way around Southampton very well, even though I've lived here for 4.5 years, because I just Google Map everything. And so like I'm just starting to kind of fit the city together now because I just use Google Maps for everything, and I've stopped using it because like, no, I need to be able to go outdoors by myself. Well, I don't need to, but I want to be able to get there by myself. So I'm going to figure it out rather than just allowing this technology to tell me, because my skills are atrophying or I never learned them in the first place.
Is it okay that should we defend the knowledge we have and that we are reliant upon? Should we defend that the idea that we must keep that and we must always have that? Because historically we have lost the skills. I don't make my clothes anymore, you know, like was it the Luddites that fought against the loom being made because they
it's destroying their livelihoods.
And it was, but and then of course it happened, and here we are. And so like we have a very solid history of essential, and this word atrophy, it suggests that if my bicep atrophies, it reduces in size, and we're talking about our brains atrophying. But I don't see that. I see us replacing it with new things, and that by not having to know how to carve this table and build weld the legs on it, means I can give my brain space to love or more important things in the world.
Yeah, I think we come back to this kind of your innate techno-optimism, right? Which is, I think, just saying, well, no, I think that's a lovely idea that like if I've got more time, then I can love more. That's the absolute best case scenario. My concern, my worry would be that most people aren't using their extra time that they no longer need to understand, you know, how to cook. They can just order. They're using that time just to sit and, you know, watch stuff on Netflix, watch stuff on YouTube to consume, and they're not using this time.
And that is absolutely the other side of it. So, which is because it's to a point. It just there seems to be such an inevitability as to where we're going in terms of like it was naive of the Luddites to think that we wouldn't have a future where the looms would be what makes all the clothes, or the vast majority. retrospectively, it was naive to think that. And retrospectively, we can see the naivety in those moments where we looked ahead and thought, we don't want to make the change. And I think to think that when these changes aren't coming down the line, or that we can resist it and we can hold on to it and prevent the atrophy, that it feels like there's less joy in the process. If we could embrace it and ride that wave, fucking surf it.
Yeah. No, I think that's a nice idea, but I think it's a bit of a dichotomy that you're saying, a false dichotomy, that either we kind of have to go along with everything and kind of whatever, like Musk and ChatGPT and all these people say, we have to go along with it, and on the other side we're kind of like, you're a Luddite. Like I don't know. I think we can kind of maybe walk a bit of a middle path. When radio was first set up, it was a free for all. People could do anything they want, and the government regulated radio and kind of gave out licenses, and radio, what you could say on the radio got licensed, and what you could play, and like you had your bandwidths and stuff. So like they were able to monitor it and to look after it in a way that was helpful. I don't think we can just need to like hand over all of what the future to Elon Musk, which is my great fear. I don't want to hand over to him. Like I think you're right, as in like these, like it does seem to be inevitably moving forward, but like how that emerges, I think is still very much up for grabs. And I don't think we should leave it to the tech bros to make those decisions for us.
Well, I suppose the next step is, what do we do with the time that we've got?
Well, isn't that the question, Tim?
Yeah, it is. And that's like, you follow the trajectory to a world of abundance. Yeah, what do we do with that time?
Well, but we already kind of are in a world of abundance, right? We already have, again, to go back to my dad and my grandmother, they grew up in houses without kind of like proper plumbing. My great-grandmother presumably was kind of washing her clothes by hand, and like now I just put it on and it does it itself. I don't even think about it. Like this is the great problem of really being in Western 21st century, in that like we have abundance, we have everything we need. Even within my lifetime, I've seen it change hugely. And it's all about finding meaning now in our lives rather than trying to like get more convenience. Like this is the great problem. Our lives have no meaning. Everything is too easy. We have to create problems for ourselves to solve, like running an Ironman, like making a podcast that you don't need to do. You've just made a massive problem for yourself because it's interesting. So I don't know. And I guess, again, so to come back to AI seems to be making things, taking away some of that meaning again. A big problem. One of my most disliked things about our modern culture is how we are encouraged to be passive. How, social media, TV, so much technology wants us to like sit still, scroll mindlessly, accept what kind of appears on the conveyor belt of culture, watch stuff, maybe then go down to the shop, like buy something and come back, but also just buy stuff online and get it sent to you. I feel like modern culture encourages us to be passive, and I feel like AI is also really encouraging us to be passive. And I think that meaning comes from not being passive. Having a good life comes from not being passive. Engaging in the world, engaging with your community, engaging with your loved ones, engaging with, books and anything. And I feel like culture is pushing us to be passive, and AI seems like another form of sit down, be quiet. You don't have to learn to play the guitar. You can just make it on this. You don't have to learn to write. You can just do it through ChatGPT.
How do we adapt? Because if we trace it back and we say that the blacksmith was passing things down, and this generational change and iteration and growth that we have experienced, or could perhaps make a case for at least, is now gone, and that we are experiencing such rapid changes. We are still like a third of a human life into the internet. It was like 30 years ago where it sort of started becoming a thing, and it's such a phenomenal rate of change that we've experienced in that time. And there was resistance back in the day, back in 1995 or when it was coming out. And now that's ubiquitous. That is, I mean, within 5 years it was ubiquitous. It took very little time from its inception to being just woven into every crevice of our lives. How do we deal with this? Because we're dealing with huge changes that should take generations to evolve into. How do we evolve into just with social media? We are just children with it. We, as a society, we just can't regulate it at a speed. We're trying in the UK now, but we're going to play whack-a-mole with that one for a while.
Yeah, no, for sure. And without a doubt, people are going to look back on us 100 times and be like, oh my God, can you believe they used to do this? Whatever it was, they used to allow kids on the internet, they're going to be like, these guys were idiots. I can't believe they ever did this. But yeah, how do we evolve? We can't socially. It's impossible to socially evolve at the speed that technology is. It's just too fast. When you have this amount of money and time and people funneled into the move fast and break things philosophy, we can't keep up, and our political systems are sclerotic and just cannot in any way move forward fast enough. I mean, we're at the mercy of them, really, aren't we? How can we not be?
Still man it for me. Like, because let's say we have to work it out. Let's say that we've got to do this because let's say it is inevitable.
What's the best case scenario for?
Best case scenario, but like still man the case of how do we deal with this change? How do we make best? How do we adapt to the changes? Because if we accept that phenomenal changes, extreme changes are inevitable, philosophically, like how do we as a society,
how do we keep up with the change?
How do we find acceptance of it? Like how do we surf the wave instead of fighting it?
Oh, okay, but then you're assuming that we shouldn't find it. We should always surf the waves, right? I mean, because we could not, like government. I mean, the Pope is just. I never thought I would be promoting what the Pope says. I never thought I'd be at this stage of my life, but apparently at 41 years out, I'm now promoting the Pope. He wrote a thing that came out a few weeks ago, and it's the Pope's view of AI, and it's really good.
Yeah,
it's really good. Do you
think he? Yeah. Okay. No.
No. It's really. It's like he wants us to. He like it's very left wing. It seems. If you didn't know, you'd think he was writing from the point of view of like a kind of modern day Marxist. It's all kind of like about workers' rights and putting workers first and foremost and people first and foremost. He, unfortunately, I can't really remember what he says. At the end of it, he has some different ideas about regulation and how we kind of use language around these things. So there are people who, but in terms of like how we move forward, I think there has to be government has to be involved with these things. And I think we have to get better at kind of trying something and be like, oh, no, actually, no, we should step back from that. We can bring this back and kind of saying social media, okay, but not for under 16s, or social media, but not for like people with problems with, I don't know, self-harm and suicide ideation and this kind of thing. Like, I think we have to get better at trying something and stepping back. I mean, surely that has to be part of it, and regulation.
I know we're getting political to a degree, but I suppose that's. Do you think it's possible for us to slow down, I'm asking the question of if it's possible to slow down and let alone turn it around, to revoke on and to move back on things. But it is possible. Do our governments have the strength and the willpower and to stand up to people like, you know, Elon Musk and Jeff Bezos? Like, not at the moment.
A little bit, not in America. The American political system is an absolute mess. I think we're doing slightly better here. Other governments are able to do it a little bit. But I mean, how bad will things have to get before we finally kind of have to make these decisions? I don't know. But for me, the rise of populism is inextricably connected to the rise of social media. And yeah, you can't have one without the other.
Can you define populism for me?
Oh, yeah, sure. So populism would be a kind of the politics of Nigel Farage and the MAGA movement, Trump in the US. It's classically, populism is this idea that there is like the pure people of the country, and that there is a kind of like a mass of like unspecified people out there who are trying to ruin your country. And my job as a populist leader is to give you like easy answers to how and why these kind of like, the swamp in America, or Farage blames immigrants and the EU and says that these people are ruining your country, and it's my job as like the head of this UKIP or whoever, or Reform, to say I'm here to like preserve the country for you. So it's simple, easy answers to very complex questions, a la Trump.
Yeah, okay.
And then social media does this perfectly, because social media serves you up an answer in a kind of 1 minute TikTok thing, reel, whatever they're called, and it says, here's the 1 minute explanation about like why you can't get a job in your like Midlands town.
Well, yeah, they're not to obviously get.
God, you'll defend social media, Tim. Do it.
No, I'm not. That's not my business. But I think that I approach social media with a sense of caution that I can't say for sure that it isn't bought, that it isn't being influenced or trying to persuade me in a certain direction. I may be getting a bit sort of into the weeds here, but I think the echo chamber it creates for people is not always necessarily a representation of what they want, and that it can be influenced by external pressures.
But I would say that like social media and populism just go hand in hand, because social media moves away from like, you can't have like a deep dive into like, the economical repercussions of Farage's attempt to repatriate British people who happen to, come from, if you like, Afghani heritage. You can't get into the weeds with that in a 1 minute TikTok thing, right? You can't. So social media rewards quick takes, hot takes that are like the 5 reasons we need to get rid of immigrants. Number 1, right? And whereas like the old form of media, you would have like back in the day, the BBC used to or Channel 4 used to host an hour-long debate on the future of EU where you could get into the weeds. And so,
which they still do.
Yeah, sure. But I don't know who's watching that.
My mum.
Your mum? Okay, yeah. Well, good for her. I bet your mum isn't voting for Farage, though. No, I don't know. Whatever. That's not the point.
I don't know. I don't. Yeah. Yeah.
There's also the thing that also, and I'm going to slightly get on my hobby horse here. The thing that concerns me a lot with social media concerns me more with AI is that the idea that we have this one tool that's made by one particular group of people that's going to be so influential on so many walks of life for so many people. I don't think that you're ever going to go to a wedding again and have to listen to a really rubbish best man speech. We've all been there. Because every single best man speech from now on, in every single, from Mumbai to Rio de Janeiro to Moscow to London, every single AI best man speech is going to be put into ChatGPT, and it's then going to be spat back, and then it's going to be like, oh, not even that going to get far. You're going to say to ChatGPT, this is my mate Dave, here's some anecdotes, make me a best man speech about this, right? Which means that every single one is going to be the same. And I think it's going to be that's going to be the case in so many different walks of life.
The same quality.
The same style. The same style. I suspect it's going to be some variation of like the anecdotes and opening jokes and those kind of things. They're all going to be the same, because whoever controls the technology controls so much about like the way that it's produced. You mentioned the printing press a little while ago, and before the printing press, there were all these different dialects in England. Someone up in Manchester couldn't make themselves understood to someone in London, and they couldn't make themselves understood in someone in Cornwall, who couldn't make themselves understood in someone in Somerset, yada, 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 because there are all these different dialects. And to the extent that I was reading a book about these things, and it said that some sailors left London, and then they were on the Kent Estuary, 50 miles away from London, and they couldn't communicate with this farmer's wife on the Kent Estuary, 50 miles from London, and buy eggs, because their dialects were so different, 50 miles from London, right? So pre-printing press, England is this incredible mosaic of different dialects and language that's everywhere, right?
Yeah.
And then in the 1500s, Flemish printers come over and set up shop in London and start producing books. And they use the dialect of London and the East Midlands to produce books. And then as time goes on, this dialect from London and the East Midlands becomes the dialect of England. All those other dialects fade away. We don't know now how people were speaking in Hampshire and really the Northeast. And it became the dialect and the spelling as well. For the entire of English. And then that spread to Scotland and Wales and Ireland and North America and Australia. And now this dialect and this particular spelling that was created in London at this time has become the dominant dialect for all over the world, right? And so that particular choice and those particular spellings that those people chose, like they're just personal whims. Like these Flemish people were just like, ghost. That shouldn't be spelled G-O-S-T as the local people spell it. We're Flemish. We're going to put an H in ghost. And that's why we spell ghost with an H, because of 16th century Flemish printers.
Responsible for that sort of stuff.
We used to spend head, H-E-D.
I used to think I like the Flemish.
Ghost, G-O-S-T. Shall, S-H-A-L was how we spelled these words. And the Flemish were just like, no, we should stick some extra letters in. And that's part of the reason our spelling is so mad. But so it's the fact that they happened to be in London at that time, they chose the London dialect, and the fact that they chose these spellings has now mean that someone in New Zealand and someone in Canada and someone in India is spelling ghost like that, right? And there's no reason it had to be. So these ideas that come with the technology are baked into the technology. And if you don't adapt to the ideas that are baked in and the idiosyncrasies that are baked in, you'll just be wrong, right? So you take the idea and you apply that to AI. If you do a best man speech in 20 years' time that doesn't follow AI's belief of what a best man speech would be, that's going to be wrong. Because our entire ideas of what these things shall be are going to be set up by ChatGPT, Claude, Grok.
Yeah. Let me move it on to so we're talking about like the production of content here, the production of music, and the production of words. What about the consumption of it? Because if we were to listen to 2 tracks now, and they might be made by AI. They might be made by humans. We don't know. We don't know what the artist's name is. We don't know anything about it. We just subjectively or objectively, however, we just say, did we like it? Did we enjoy it?
Sure.
Rate it out of 10. And you're never going to be told it was made by AI
track
or
1 or track
human.
2, we don't. Yeah,
just doesn't, and it'll be gone. Like, if we don't even know about it, then does it influence our perception, our feel of it?
So I think it does influence how. So if we did know, if we knew, I think that always affects how we feel about a piece of art. Okay, but so let's say in your example, you're going to play me 2 reggae tracks. 1 track was made by an AI. 1 track was made by some people. right? And I don't know.
Yeah.
And let's just say that I rate them to be equally decent, right? Does it matter that that one of them was made by an AI? As the consumer, I mean, I guess not. I can get equal enjoyment from both. I mean, certainly if you just drop a couple of AI tracks into a playlist, then sure, I'm probably going to enjoy them as much as everything else on the playlist. But as you know, there's one stream of philosophy, the philosophy of art, where they say that art is the action of the art is something that's put in. The art is kind of created by the person when they make it. I can't remember the name of the guy, but he says that art is something, an artist has an idea that's partially formed in their head. And as they create the art, they express this thought. And that expression of this partially formed thought is the art. And that's different to rhetoric, where rhetoric is trying to persuade someone of something. Art is the expression of a partly formed idea. So in that view of art as like an expression of an idea or an expression of a feeling, then the AI thing is not art. It's just something that looks a bit like art. But does that matter to the listener? Maybe not.
Did you see the New York Times? Maybe a few months ago now, they put out a quiz, and it was 5 questions, and each question there were 2 blocks of text. One was written by AI, one was written by a human.
Interesting.
And you'd read, for number 1, you'd read both blocks of text, and you'd click on either one to say which one you preferred. And that's all it was. Which one did you prefer?
So you're not even saying which one you think is AI, it's just which one you prefer.
No, it was which one do you prefer, which one do you enjoy? And
which ones did you select him?
Do you know, I can't remember. But of the what pissed me off wasn't whether because each time you clicked on it, it would tell you straight away this one was written by AI or the one you clicked on was written by a human. And what pissed me off wasn't, at first I thought the game is here to get all the human ones. That's how I'm going into it, because I'm like, I'm human.
That's what I would do.
I can win this. That's the game.
Yeah.
I can do this. And like, of course I didn't.
Yeah.
I had a good go. And in my, and although it says, select the one that you prefer, you're trying to pick the one that you think is human.
Yeah.
Because that's the game. And, but what pissed me off wasn't that I accidentally chose the AI, or that I chose the AI or the human. What pissed me off is when you clicked on it, it told you the percentage of people that had chosen that one before.
Okay.
And so I just wanted to be in the larger group of people.
Oh, interesting.
So, and I didn't see that coming. And it was only about the third one I realised, hang on a minute, I'm not trying to seek which one is human. I'm trying to seek which one is the most popular.
Interesting.
And so then when it comes up, it's like, AI made this one, and 64% of people also clicked on this. I'm like, winner.
Oh, interesting.
I'm like, I'm in with the crowd.
Huh.
And I didn't foresee that coming, but I tried to be honest with how I was feeling and going through it. So they've had, I think back in March, they announced that there was like 86,000 people had completed this quiz. And at that time, on average, 54% of people were voting on AI content. Ironically, the human content that people voted for the least was an extract from Carl Sagan's
really?
Demon Mind thing.
Demon Haunted World.
Demon Haunted World.
Really? That's really nice writing as well.
Yeah, right. And so it was slightly selective, and I don't think that and so the irony of that was amused me, if nothing else. But I don't think because the 5 blocks of text, or the 10 blocks of text, if you like, were what didn't change for the 86,000 people. So it wasn't like the sample size of text was relatively small. So I don't think it proved that humans prefer AI content. It proved that it's possible for humans to prefer AI content.
Sure. I think because AI content is always going to make something that's going to be like pleasant and easily digestible, right?
And to kind of draw on that, like we progress in our willingness to accept technology in the production of the things we consume. And I know, like making coffee, right? So some people like the whole process of going through making an espresso coffee and seeing someone else and the human interaction that came with it. But then, you go to Starbucks, they don't actually have the tamper, and so the machine just makes it for you nowadays.
Really?
Yeah.
In Starbucks?
Yeah. Right? So they push the button, and it inside the machine, it grinds the coffee, it puts it into the thing, it tampers it, and it just produces the espresso out of it.
Sure.
It's the biggest like coffee brand in the world, and so we can shit on Starbucks and say that it's not as good as whatever. But the point is, we are moving to allowing technology, robots, artificial intelligence to produce, to just take another little step down the line in its production for us. And at what point do we allow technology to produce best man's speech, to produce things and accept it, and that actually, do you know what? But it has made more people laugh, or it did give that person more confidence in their delivery of it.
Yeah. You mean we're going to get a better quality of best men's speeches because of it, right? We're not going to have to sit down through those like painful. I've sat through some painful best man speeches. They've been bad. Am I quite glad that I'm not going to have to do that anymore? Maybe. I don't know.
Eulogies.
That
would be good.
but like, you're going to lose, but you also, is it WALL-E, the film WALL-E, where there's a bit of a scene in WALL-E where the machines are running around and all the human beings are all these fat men and women sat in like floating chairs watching TV with a drink and food in front of them, and they're just going backwards and forwards. Like that has to be that's the nightmare, right?
That's a Brave New World.
No. Okay, maybe, but it's also WALL-E.
Well, yeah.
The idea, Brave New World. Yeah, with Soma, like, right, with that we're no longer engaged in the world, that we're just taking Soma constantly.
Yeah, when we look at, I've forgotten the word again. I texted you this morning.
Transhumanism.
Why does that word keep escaping me? Because I want us to keep saying post-humanism.
Oh, it's sometimes called post-humanism as well.
Oh, is it really?
Yeah.
Huh, there we go. I'm going to call it that then. That makes more sense. I think because the word trans in my mind, I've recent times associated with
trans
other
identity
things.
And trans meaning beyond.
Right. Okay. Yeah. So, but this idea that we have evolved and then mate, we're an hour and 15 minutes in, so maybe to like introduce this right now. But the idea of eugenics and that we might what does post-human look like, and because if you're looking at, because thinking of A Brave New World, they were using eugenics as a way of creating a better human society.
Well, certainly more passive human society, right?
Gotcha.
Yeah. But also, like, there's an argument within transhumanism that we are already transhumans. That, we use. I've got an analog watch in my arm. You've got a smartwatch in your arm, but also I'm wearing clothes. Maybe you've got contact lenses, hearing aid. Like, we are already like pacemakers, exactly. But we are already interwoven with technology in a way that is inseparable. And, maybe if we get like Elon Musk's neural link, that's just going to be like another thing. There's a great quote from Douglas Adams, which is, it's something like, any technology that exists before you're born is just the natural way of things. Any technology that comes into being but by the time you're 25 is incredible and is probably going to make you rich. And any technology that comes into being after you're 30 years old is an abomination and it's against the rule of God. Right? So for us, watches and clothes are just part of the natural nature of things. But for us, like the next step is like against the natural order of things, because we just accept what's already here when we're young. And for us, like AI, I'm 41, you're 44. AI is just like potentially against the natural order of things. But for the next generation, they'll be like, oh yeah, of course, I've got this Tesla robot that walks around my house and clears up the dog mess.
For sure. Yeah, and that's the generational hand down. But we...
But simultaneously, we also live in a world where we've lost something like some astonishing number, like 75% of the wild animals in the UK have died since like 1970. I've probably got that number wrong. It might be 2/3. 2/3 of like the biomass of the UK, the wild biomass of the UK, has disappeared since 1970, right? And for us, we look outside and it's normal. We wake up in the morning, we listen to like this weak dawn chorus, and for that's normal. But 100 years ago, they had a completely different sense of like what wildlife should be like, what you should see, what you should come across. But for us, it's normal, but that's normal in a bad way, right? We've definitely regressed. I mean, maybe you remember when you were a lad driving, and your windscreen would be constantly covered in dead bugs.
Yeah.
Because there were so many bugs. Now, it doesn't happen. Or maybe it's like if I get like one bug a day, something like that. Because we've seen this slow degradation in wildlife in the UK. And so again, our grandchildren, like, what are they going to think of what wildlife is? It's just something you go to see in a zoo, isn't it? Right? So just because something's become normal for you, it doesn't mean that things are getting better.
You familiar with the Fermi paradox?
Yeah. It's the idea that we're all of the aliens, right? We live in this big universe, so there should be loads of aliens. There should be an almost infinite number of aliens, but there don't seem to be.
Yeah, if there are billions of stars and billions of solar systems and billions and billions of habitable planets out there,
there should be thousands or millions of aliens.
And then for the hundreds of millions of potentially billions of years, like where is everyone?
Yeah.
And so one of the dark sides of that maybe is that in the creation, with intelligence comes extinction.
Yeah,
we just get to a point where we just burn out. Because in the same way that when you fast forward, time lapse a forest over years and years, you just see like just the earth just spilling out with life that just kind of like grows out of the ground and then dies and rots and goes back into producing the next life, and that maybe humans just like and life intelligence just kind of doesn't
just temporary.
Yeah, maybe it is.
Yeah, okay, but let's go back to what I was speaking to about before, right? This idea by this postmodern idea that technology is actually bad and it's destructive. It resulted in Auschwitz, and it will eventually result in the extinction of humanity. That's that point of view, right? That that technology isn't good. Technology is dangerous.
But it could also be the greatest thing. It could also, and maybe we break the Fermi paradox. Maybe we.
That's optimism.
Whoa.
Yeah, maybe.
Maybe we do. And maybe we become multiplanetary. Maybe we become Brian Johnson. You've seen his stuff recently? So he's been doing this don't die thing. Where he's like,
is this the guy who wants to live to 150?
Yeah, or something like that.
Yeah.
And he's like he's living the optimum human life. And
he's not living the optimum human life. He doesn't eat for 8 hours before he goes to bed, right? So he has his last meal at about 11 o'clock in the morning. He gets up, he used to give his children and wife a rating at the end of every day and say, essentially give them a stars out of 5 and say, and funnily enough, his wife divorced him.
Well, he's in a very loving, happy relationship now. He's got a brilliant relationship with his son. at the moment.
Is this the guy who got his blood from his son, right?
Yeah,
Yes.
yeah. Sort of, they did a.
Is this the optimal life, Tim?
Well, look, I'm plucking on the extremes here, but like, it's what he's advocating for is that we channel this. We have fought for years for an age for survival, and that nowadays in a world of plenty of abundance, we don't need. It's like, where do we channel the energy that we like? Because we can just flick the heating on with an app, so it's warm when we get home. We don't need to go out and
we can drive to the end of the marathon, right? Why would you do a marathon when you can drive to the end?
And what he's advocating for is that we use that energy to focus on our health and our happiness and our love for each other. And I know it's a bit hippie to say, but what if that becomes somewhere that we can channel our energy? And what if we can, I guess, kind of surpass this freaking desire to kill each other all the time?
But that's lovely, but I don't think the life that he is living is a good life. I don't know about it a lot. My wife goes on about him occasionally, but he can't eat out with friends because he has such a kind of regimented diet. He doesn't eat. He has his last meal at like 11 a.m. because he doesn't want to have any food in his system. He goes to bed at like 8 o'clock every night and gets up at 4 o'clock every morning. He leads this like bizarre monk-like existence where he, I'm sure like heard about like giving ratings to his children and wife. Like it's you say he's leading the optimal life, but that doesn't seem like a life that I want to lead. It seems to be missing out a lot of what the joy is of being a human being.
He did a fantastic podcast with Theo Von where he was asked a lot of questions about a lot of this, and he seemed we're getting into a specific person here now.
But I know, but it is a specific person. But also for me, that's a good example of like the over quantified, the over analyzed life that is failing at like having a good life. That this kind of obsession with quantifying things in spreadsheets and technology and kind of tech progress in this certain way is you're missing out on what it means to have a good life and enjoy your time on earth. Like if you can't sit down with your family in the evening and have a meal and a glass of wine and talk with your friends, then what is the point?
Well, okay, look, I'll get into. So Brian Johnson, he's working on his physical health, but he's working on his mental health, and he would protest to say that he's the happiest he's been in his life. He's got an incredibly loving relationship. He's had a broken marriage, but he learned from that, and he's about like, and you know he sold his business for £800 million or something because, and he works himself to the bone. He's worked hard in his life, and I've no doubt been a tech bro who messed up his family at times, but he's trying to be like a newer version, and I'm not suggesting that that everything he's doing is wholeheartedly right and correct, but what he stands for, this idea that we could in a replacement, how do we use our time, and it's about we use our time now and our energy to put it towards being the best versions of ourselves. Now, he's going for his best version, but what's our best version? I don't
know what that means.
To be happy, to be kind, to be healthy, to be content, and like.
Okay, that's all great. That's a great answer. I don't understand how that's related to being the best version of myself. Because that also being happy and content and loving doesn't seem to fit with this person who leads this incredibly controlled life where they're obsessively trying to like.
Let's
Okay,
let's
put him aside.
It's not about him.
Yeah.
But it's about.
But that's my point, is that I feel like with this obsession about technology and progress, we're forgetting fundamentally about what it means to have a good life and to have real connection and community. Like people look at their phones and they feel like they've got loads of friends because they've got these followers on TikTok and Instagram and Twitter. But that's not real connection. That's not real community. people having relationships with AI, and they think that they're in a loving relationship, but they're not. They think they're making music, but they're not. Like, we are fed these mirages by these companies, and we think that we're getting the thing that we want, but we're not, because the thing that we want is to spend time with people and have a conversation, have an argument, all this kind of stuff. Like, that's what's important. That's what a worthwhile life is. Not some quantified life when you can say, I'm going to live. Yeah.
Do you think at some point we're going to have to pony up though? Because if the perception is that we're pushing this out there, because what gets you clicks and follows? Well, it's going off traveling to amazing places. It's looking fit and healthy. It's smiling. It's living a good life. And we're creating, as you say, this mirage, this kind of facade of happiness and joy. But it is a facade at the moment, because we are children playing with systems that we don't fucking understand, really. And but at some point, are we going to have to actually be that? Because we're all recognizing that it's all fake. We all know it. So at some point, if that's the aspiration, if that's what we want to project, do we at some point go, well, do you know what? I'm actually going to do that. I'm actually going to be happy. I'm actually going to be fit and healthy.
But how do people know how to do that? Like, the average, if you speak to a 17-year-old now, if you ask them what they want to be when they grow up, like, a huge number will say, I want to be a social media influencer. It's like the top career aspiration for like 16 to 17-year-olds at the moment.
Yeah. And
I see all that stuff as just fake.
Oh, yeah.
So, like, you say, well, are we going to have to, like, actually stop pretending to be happy? I don't see how the system doesn't seem to be set up for that. The system is set up around facade and mirage and not about the real thing. I don't understand how you can have a culture that is kind of whirling around social media that's actually also going to make people happy.
Yeah. No, I don't know what the path is.
No, me neither. And I'm concerned. I'm really concerned about what this means for our culture, what this means for our future, who the power is. I mean, what we haven't got into is the obvious problems of AI that everyone knows about. The environment and social media psychosis, and the fact that it's been involved in all these kind of things. Like, I don't know how we deal with those things. But how do you deal with the obvious concerns about the environment? Like, how do you kind of square your environmental beliefs and your beliefs about what kind of culture we should live in with your enthusiasm for AI?
Oh, that's a really good question.
Because, I mean, I'm not saying that from a point of view of finger pointing, because I don't know how I do it either. Because I also use AI, and I consider myself to be an environmentalist, but I don't know. I'm really struggling with, like, how do I consider myself to be someone who's concerned about the environment and cares, and, like, I'm vegetarian for environmental reasons. I try not to fly for environmental reasons, but I do use AI, and I don't need to. I don't think I've ever needed to use AI in my life. So I could just drop it, but I don't. And I think trying to square that is really hard. But I know that you've been involved in that stuff as well. So.
And, like, for sure, I have my enthusiasm to have a conversation around the environment has dwindled a bit over the time. And it's not that I still love this planet. I still want animals to not become extinct. I still want the best for everything that's going on here. I think there is. I don't think it's as clear cut as I maybe had thought a few years ago when I was.
Which part?
That we need to go. I don't think it's as clear cut as the world needs to be carbon zero, and, like, we need to just, like, battle for that one straight away. I think there's a lot of people making a lot of money through environmental concerns. I think the environmental concerns are valid and real, and I try to strike a balance between this insatiable need to have progress, to have more money, to have more power, to develop new technologies. It's like we have this, going back to the caveman days where we had to fight for our lives and go out and get food and keep ourselves warm, and just this energy we've got for survival and life and progress that we just, in a modern world, in a warm home, with a supermarket down the road, we just got this energy that we need to put into progression of what, and I think we're maybe just channeling it in the wrong direction at times, and I think that it feels as though we have definitely. We have clearly had a lack of consideration for our environment as we've done that. And I would like to think that we are starting to see how we can improve upon that. At the same time, I think that technology is helping us combat some of the mistakes that we've made in the past as well. So I think the two things are not directly rubbing up against each other.
So again, to come back to your techno-optimism, that your hope that via technology we can kind of cause sort out some of the problems that have.
Yeah, it's not about it is optimism. The best advice I got from a friend when I started mountain biking some years ago, and the best advice someone gave me was, like, when cycling down through the forest, look at the path ahead.
Okay.
Well, that seems pretty simple, right?
Yeah.
But it was, don't look at the trees. The trees are there. The trees will hurt you. If you crash into a tree, it'll fucking hurt. Yeah. But don't look at the trees. Like, where you look is where you'll end up.
I'm the same thing.
And I'm not ignorant. I'm not naive to the reality that, of course, like, AI could, if we crash into that one, it's going to smart. But I do think I want to focus on the path, and I want to focus on where we're going. And I just, that's what excites me. Like, I can still make a case as to how we're all fucked. Like, but I think focusing on the path and where we could go with it and being optimistic feels like a more enjoyable ride.
Yeah. There's something, if you want to, the other side is very kind of just like miserable and just like, oh, we shouldn't do anything. We should just go back to the caves because it's all terrible. Yeah, I agree. To kind of say like AI is going to be great feels like a much more optimistic worldview, right?
It feels relieving to do that.
Yeah.
What do you think? What questions are people not asking about the changes we've got?
I think the questions. I mean, like, this is like a whole different thing. I'm again to repeat myself. I'm concerned about like the way that it threatens to like create a universe, to create that kind of like that Flemish London spelling that the printing press did. I'm concerned about, you know, the way that it's going to like completely homogenize how we do many things in our culture. I find that really concerning. There's also like a social justice thing about the fact that all these things are being trained on the labor of like poor people in countries in far away, and that's not really discussed. Like, you know, the fact that you know, you can put something in ChatGPT and say, give me a picture of a cat riding a bicycle. Well, it's only able to do that because it's been trained on a million pictures of cats and bicycles by some person in some kind of poor part of Kenya. I think we don't talk about that enough. We don't acknowledge, you know, the sweat of the people who've done into this. So I think that a lot, but you know, that's going to be superseded quickly. But yeah, my concern is the worst case scenario. Well, I think there's many worst case scenarios, but the worst case scenario would be that this diversity of thought is going to be eradicated, and that we're all going to end up thinking the same way, writing the same kind of emails and messages, and that in 50 years' time, diversity will be: do you prefer ankle socks or trainer socks? Do you prefer Tesco or Sainsbury's? That's my real concern, and the Pope agrees with me. So, that's always nice.
Was he like ankle socks? I bet he's got good ankles.
He's an ankle socks guy.
I really appreciate you coming in today. I feel like we could probably keep going for quite a while. And I made some questions. I made some notes on things to talk about, and half of it we've not
touched on. I mean, I really want to talk to you about the role of men in 2026 and the role. I think you've got some really interesting points of view that I would love to speak to you about, but some other time.
Well, maybe we do this again sometime.
Yeah, that'd be great.
When it's episode
175, when you finally got it, and you're like, oh, I know what I'm doing now.
Oh yeah. There's going to be a day when I realise I've forgotten to press record on something.
Yeah.
Or I messed something up. It's all still very new to me, and I really appreciate you and for people trusting me to come down, and because this is going out to the world, right? And yeah, so I really value that. So thank you very much.
Well, thank you for asking me.
I definitely. I've forgotten that word again.
Transhumanism.
Why does that? Posthumanism.
Posthumanism is fine. They sometimes call it posthumanism. That's
awesome. Yeah. So when that becomes one of the philosophy forums.
Yes, the Southampton Philosophy Forum. We will be doing posthumanism at some point in September or October. So
if people want to hear more about what you're doing, the philosophy forum, where can they hear about that?
I am unfortunately I'm just on Instagram. If you just Google Southampton Philosophy Forum, you'll find me. We meet up about twice a month, and we discuss different topics. This coming Sunday, we're doing.
This might be going out in about 2 weeks.
We're doing populism. After that, we're doing wokeism and cancel culture. After that, we're doing feminism. Then we're taking a bit of a break for summer. Then we're coming back and doing transhumanism. Got one on what is art and can AI make art, which is very in this wheelhouse.
Yeah.
I don't know. It's all about thorny topics. Kind of thorny topics to kind of chew over. The tagline is a place for interesting people to have interesting conversations. That's my tagline.
I love it. And then also you've got the AI.
Oh yeah, and I'm making a course for AI.
Course.
And so next year I'm making a course for AI and another one on comparative religion as well, which is my other kind of interest.
Wow.
Where does religion come from? How does religion evolve? Why is the kind of Jewish Islam, Christianity different to kind of the Buddhist kind of tradition of Islam, and which is also different to the Aboriginal tradition of Islam and yada yada.
We should definitely talk again.
Yeah.
I appreciate this. Cheers, Kit.
Thanks, Tim.
All right, bye.